Hi guys, Forgotten Wolf here, and this is part 1 to what if Jaime Lannister was sent to the wall following him killing the Mad King. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe, and time for some background. Also, I'm recording this really late at night. I'm scared out of my mind after watching FNAF theories. At the end of Robert's rebellion, Jaime Lannister killed the Mad King while Jaime's father, Tywin, was sacking the city. When Ned Stark found out that Jaime had killed the Mad King, called him Kingslayer. Ned begged Robert to punish him, but Robert did nothing. And now, let's begin. Instead of doing nothing, Robert decides to listen to Ned Stark and decides to punish Jaime by sending him to the wall, setting a precedent. Robert will still marry Cersei, but the marriage will be very different. Without Jaime, Joffrey, Tommen, and Marcella won't be born, Cersei and Robert won't have any kids, since Cersei only got pregnant by Robert once in the show, we referenced in season 1, and the baby died in birth. So yeah, for Jaime there is also a rise in power, as Jaime will very likely be elected as the next Lord Commander of the Wall instead of Jorah Mormont, since he arrived there earlier. There is peace for a long time, but in season 1, Ned, Arya, and Sansa go down to King's Landing still, but Sansa won't be promised, and also with no Jaime to throw Bran at the window, Bran will go down to King's Landing as well, and he won't lose his legs. Littlefinger still needs to provoke a war, and with no incest to discover, Cersei won't be the one to kill Robert. Instead, it's Littlefinger, because it needs war to rise the ranks. With Robert's death, things change for the Lannisters as Cersei flees King's Landing to go back to Casterly Rock. Tyrion isn't hostage because Catelyn will have no reason to take him prisoner, so there's a good chance he goes back to King's Landing with Cersei after Robert's death. Ned will force Stannis to be crowned, but Renly will refuse to bend the knee, and it will start the Baratheon Civil War. Moving on to season number 2 now. Ned will tell Robb to rally at the north. Maybe this happened in season 1, but Catelyn will stay behind as the Stark in Winterfell, since Rickon is only 6. Renly will marry Margaery to get the support of the north. To get the support of the Reach, sorry. In the chaos, Balon Greyjoy will still be crowned King of the Iron Islands. However, Tywin Lannister will sit out the war for now. Now, Stannis planned to clear the small council of Varys and Littlefinger, so Varys will go towards Daenerys Targaryen, and Littlefinger will sneak off to the Vale to marry Lysa Arryn. Stannis will bring Davos and Melisandre to the Red Keep, and the first battle of the war is between Robb and Renly. So Renly needs to prevent Robb from arriving at King's Landing, setting up the second battle of the Trident, which, like Robb Stark did in the War of the Five Kings, Robb Stark wins all his battles, so Robb Stark wins the battle. With no need to find allies, Robb will not free Theon, which means Winterfell and Rickon is safe. But the Ironborn will still invade the north. Meanwhile, at the wall, I don't think Jaime would go north of the wall, because even though he'll be aware of the wildling threat, I just don't think he would at this stage. But he will send word to a bunch of lords and kings and all that. I could also see Jaime personally training Jon Snow at the wall. But after moving back down south, after suffering a defeat, Renly will take Dragonstone with no resistance as Stannis is in King's Landing, but this also means Renly has Stannis' daughter Shireen. Stannis will finally take the field himself while also trying to punish the Tyrells. Stannis will take the Northern Army along with Robb, Davos, and Melisandre to Storm's End to battle Renly. The battle doesn't happen like in the show, as Renly dies to a shadow baby and Shireen is freeing back to Stannis. With that war, the war is almost over, but Stannis needs to punish the Tyrells. Before leaving King's Landing, Stannis will install Shireen as the Lady of Storm's End and the Crown Princess. I should mention that the Lannisters at this point. With Cersei and Tyrion back in Casterly Rock, and Tywin will know from Cersei that Viserys is dead, Targaryen, to keep his family surviving, Tywin needs to arrange marriages. So, although he hates Tyrion, Tyrion is his only son that can marry, since Jaime's at the wall. Tywin sends Tyrion east as he wants him out of Casterly Rock anyway, towards Daenerys Targaryen to supply her ships and exchange for a marriage pact. Tywin also submits a proposal to the Tyrells in exchange for the support. Cersei will also marry Larys Tyrell. Stannis will get back in King's Landing at the end of Season 3. Now, moving on to 300 AC or Season 3. With the Storm Lord's army there is Stannis, Robb will go back home to take the North back. Around this time, I still think that the Tyrells will accept Tywin's offer because Stannis seeks to punish them, not because Larys is threatened with the Kingsguard. Tywin will march to High Garden, and I think that Cersei and Larys will be married there and then, because Stannis intends to leave very soon. Varys will also arrive in Daenerys' camp along with Barristan and Selmy. At the Vale, Littlefinger has been married to Lys Arryn, and the news will have gotten out by now. The situation in Winterfell is dire, as the Ironborn are starving out Winterfell, as Bael and Greyjoy predicted, and Robb Stark has to aid them and has to free the siege of Winterfell if it is a siege. And around episode 3 to 5 or so, he arrives at the Twins and marries Rosalind Frey and is back in the north. With Robb in the north, Stannis will turn to Melisandre for a way to deal justice to the Tyrells, Lannisters, and Greyjoys. Stannis also comes into contact with Gendry Baratheon, although Ned and Davos beg him to not kill Gendry. Stannis wants to, and so Davos still frees him and tells him to sail to Dragonstone this time. Stannis will still Melisandre will still leech, if that's the correct word, Gendry, and Stannis will name Margaery Tyrell, Tywin Lannister, and Bael and Greyjoy as they are the head of their houses. This results in Mace Tyrell and Tywin Lannister dying in some way. It's possible in Tywin's case that there's a mutiny, as Lannister men might want that war to end. With Tywin dead and the Lannisters are weakened, Cersei can't do anything about it since she is in Highgarden married to Larys. And this also means Kevin is in charge of the Lannisters and makes for Casterly Rock. Around this time, Rosalind successfully frees the North from the Ironborn, and he also discovers that his wife, Rosalind Frey, is pregnant, around the same time as Robb discovered Talisa was pregnant. Meanwhile, Davos and Melisandre still tell Davos about the White Walkers and the Watch. Stannis needs his troops at King's Landing, so he sends Davos as an envoy to send word to Robb Stark, because Stannis needs Ned to help command his army. And that's why he didn't send Ned instead of Davos. We also get to see Tyrion and Bronn travel the East whole season and deal with the adventures there, and probably come across Jorah Mormont. So that happens 2 seasons earlier than the show. Moving on to Season 4, 301 AC, Stannis will finally march towards the Tyrells and Lannisters. Stannis will also get the Riverlands on his side because of resentment towards the Lannisters for their actions in burying and burning their lands in the years following Robert's Rebellion or in Season 1. Ned Stark will have command of the Riverland army. And moving on to the Littlefinger show, Littlefinger has gotten Lys Arryn pregnant with their first child at this point, and Littlefinger sends a marriage proposal to Daenerys in secret to marry Robb and Arryn to Daenerys in exchange for his support, which would mean, crucially, that Littlefinger's child would be the Lord or Lady of the Vale if Robb and Arryn is married to Daenerys. At the Wall, Jaime takes his best men and goes to Craster's Keep and demands residence there and information. And when Craster isn't treated as he likes, I could see Jaime putting Craster's Keep to the torch while bringing the woman back with him to allow them safe travel south, showing he isn't a horrible human being. Moving back to Winterfell, Robb Stark has his heir, and he has a boy, naming it Eddard after his father. Then Davos arrives at Winterfell, telling Robb of the situation at the Wall, and with his note from King Stannis. I should mention with the Wall, another thing why Jaime burns down Craster's Keep is in order for Craster to not share to the wildlings the secrets of the Wall, since Jon Snow would have never gone beyond the Wall, and Craster would be the best wildling with knowledge of the Wall and the current state there. We finally gets down south with the first battle of King Stannis' War, which is Stormlands and Riverlands versus Lannisters and Tyrells. Happens at the Golden Tooth. between Ned Stark and the Lannister army. And despite Ned's abilities as a commander, the Lannisters' forces are very strong and have been built up over a long period of time. And the Northern Army has battled before, so the Lannisters win this battle and Ned goes back to Riverrun. Moving on to Daenerys, although she meets with Tyrion and the offer is put there, I think Tyrion will say the line of, "If my father wants someone to get fucked, I know where he can start," which is still one of my favorite lines in Game of Thrones, meaning that Tyrion promises the Lannister fleet with him, which is barely any, as Tywin at that point kept most for himself in an emergency. Before leaving Daenerys wants to sort out the Sons of the Harpy issue and leave an impact on Slavery's Bay like in the show, while also rejecting Littlefinger's proposal. Moving back to Westeros, Stannis moves along the Gold Road to try and defeat the Lannister army that way. This leads to the second battle, where Stannis battles the Lannisters at the Battle of the Gold Road, and this time Stannis wins. This leaves the Tyrells in an interesting position. Leave the Lannisters to fall or ride to their aid and try and surround Stannis. Larys is now Lord of Highgarden, and considering Cersei probably his pregnant with their first child at this point, before I get into Larys' decision, I do think Cersei would be pregnant because Cersei has no power to get Moon Tea in Highgarden without Olenna Tyrell knowing exactly what she is trying to do. Two further sieges happen. Stannis is sieging Lannisport, and Ned Stark is besieging Castle Rock because the Lannisters cannot fight two fronts at once. So whenever Stannis advances, the Lannisters will go down there, and this allowed Ned Stark to go down eventually to the point where both are under siege. Larys Tyrell can even move to battle Stannis and free the Lannisters, or try and capture King's Landing and hope Stannis follows him and lures him away from the Lannister army, allowing him to deal with Ned Stark. This is where Renly's death gets to Larys, and he starts thinking more emotional, and he battles Stannis at Lannisport and loses. Stannis Baratheon takes Lannisport and Castle Rock, and this will allow for Stannis to sail to the Iron Islands for the next season. While in Castle Rock, Ned Stark receives a raven from Littlefinger, promising to join the fight in exchange for Sansa to marry Robin Arryn, since Daenerys rejected his proposal. Although he doesn't want to, Ned Stark agrees to the marriage. Speaking of Littlefinger, I should mention that Lysa Arryn will give Littlefinger a daughter, and Littlefinger names her Elaine. Nice nod to the books. Up north, Robb Stark defeats the Wildlings, and Mance Rayder is beheaded by Robb. As Ned says, the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. We also get to see Robb and Jon reunite, which is really, really cool. Now, I originally intended to make this one what if, but there is so much to cover that it just made one video impossible. So stay tuned for part 2, where I cover the next few seasons. But until then, please like, share, and subscribe. And at 100 subscribers, I'll do a 1-hour video in FNAF Timeline. At 500 likes, I'll do a video on the Greyjoys. About 50k views, I'll do a video on the life of Ned Stark. But until next time, bye!